Why teaching languages is actually very important, episode 453.
The 10-Minute Teacher Podcast with Vicki Davis. Every weekday, you'll learn powerful, practical ways to be a more remarkable teacher today.
Today we're talking with Diego Ojeda. He is the co-founder of LangChat PLN. Now, Diego, you think that every school should teach languages and every student needs it. Why?
I believe so, Vicki. Thank you very much. Our world is becoming more and more interconnected. So this makes that new technologies and communication technologies are important to learn, but not just that, but also to have the ability to share our ideas clearly and in an effective way. So that's one of the main issues that we have here.
You know, some people say with apps like WordLens and Google Translate that languages aren't quite as important as they used to be. What do you say to that?
I say that is wrong because you can go so far with apps and tools like Duolingo and Google Translate. In this time and age, it's very important that we communicate effectively with people around the world. And unfortunately, these type of tools do not allow us to communicate in such clear ways.
So which language should people start learning? That's the other debate. There's so many languages.
Yeah, that's true. Just in the United States, we have at least 350 languages spoken in U.S. homes. Different examples, like in New York, more than 1 in 3 people age 5 and over speak a language other than English at home, and 192 languages spoken in the city. You know that in a population with 350 some million people in the United States, at least 60 million people are speaking Spanish at home. So the situation of Spanish in the United States is quite different from other languages in this country. So that's one, but taking into account that the world speaks more than 6,000 languages, it is important that somehow we speak at least 1 or 2 more languages here in the United States.
Wow, that just seems overwhelming. So you think just 1 or 2 languages makes a difference?
Well, yeah, it does make a huge difference. I don't know if you have heard this, but it's commonly said that monolingualism, in other words, speaking just one language, is the current illiteracy. So monolingualism is the illiteracy of century 21st. And if we think about the United States being pretty much a monolingual country, we're thinking that is not good for our population, for our kids, because it's a way to be illiterate in this current world.
Now, I know some students who have learning differences, they're allowed to learn computer science programming as a language to have their foreign language credits. What's your opinion of that?
Well, I think it's important to learn coding and to learn the language of computers because our society, it's pretty much based on technology. But at the same time, that's going to take you not too far. With languages, you can communicate with people. You are not communicating among computers. You are communicating with real humans. And that allows me to touch in something that is quite important when you learn world languages. When you learn a different language, you open to the world. You have the ability to communicate with new and different people. And it opens your view of the world. It gives you different points of view, which makes you a more empathetic person, meaning that you are able to recognize and understand and be able to put yourself in the shoes of other people. And I don't think that just by learning coding, you are going to be able to do the same.
So you connect with LangChat PLN. Are there any current best practices in language teaching that have you very excited, whether technology or in the classroom?
Well, yeah. Because we are changing the way we think about teaching languages. From class or lesson that is very grammar-based instruction, we're moving to something called natural approach, and we start talking about comprehensible input. So the idea is that in the classroom, we start learning languages the same way we acquire our own native language. So it's a progressive way to learn languages. And we don't look at the grammar as we used to in the past, but we focus on giving the student clear, understandable messages. And that's why it's called comprehensible input. So the student can understand what we are trying to convey in our message. And you can do this through gestures, you can do drawings, you can use, like in the case of the United States, where English has so many cognates with Spanish, you can use a lot of cognates. So the idea is that the students understand what the teacher is saying, instead of the teacher standing up in front of the class, giving a grammar lesson, and the students taking notes, not knowing what the teacher is saying.
So when we teach any language, we really focus on the language first, and we don't really get into the grammar until third or fourth grade after the students really comprehend. Is that what you're applying and doing in the language classroom?
Yeah, the idea is to be able to learn the new language in a very natural way. And you're right. When you go and see little kids learning English in kindergarten or first grade, even second grade, you see a lot of oral interaction between the kids and the teacher. The teacher is modeling the way you speak the language to the kids. The kids are listening, but the kids also have this input from home, from their friends, from their neighborhood, from their community. Of course, in a language class, it's a little difficult because you only will have the moment with your language teacher, but that's what we try to do now these days in our language classes. We need to maximize the time that we have with our students to expose them to the language and make the class not just effective, but very efficient, because we don't have enough time during the schooling age of the students to really compare to the time that the student has with their native language in their lives.
So, Diego, how can language teachers connect with LangChat PLN? How should they build their PLN so that they can learn from other language teachers? Because many language teachers feel pretty alone at their school.
That is so true. In my experience, I came from Colombia 19 years ago in South America, and teachers in Colombia are very isolated. Then I came to the States, and for the first time, I was able to attend a teacher conference, and that to me was like quite a new concept. I had no idea that there were things such as teacher conferences. I thought that was just for doctors or engineers or something like that. So that was my first approach to connecting with other teachers. Then the internet came, and we started connecting via Twitter. So about 7 years ago, with another colleague of ours, I created this group that has grown exponentially that is called LangChat, where we started having little conversations with other world language teachers who were using Twitter. So at first it was, hey, can you help me with this text? I really don't know what this means. So you get back to that person via Twitter. Then they will send you a link to a YouTube video. They couldn't understand a specific part that they wanted to work with their students. So that's how it started growing the connections. So we created a weekly conversation via Twitter, and that is why it's called LangChat, where for 1 hour, we choose a specific topic, let's say using songs in the world language classroom. And for that hour, people start sharing and collaborating and asking questions and answering questions. Then we created kind of like a website where we post the summaries of each one of the conversations. So you're going to see that there are hundreds of summaries from previous chats on Twitter. So my advice is open your Twitter account, open your Facebook account, open your Instagram account, but not just personal accounts, open professional accounts with your name and telling us a little bit about yourself. Who are you? What do you teach? And then start participating in these conversations. The moment you start doing this, you're going to stop feeling as isolated as I felt back in Colombia when I didn't have these opportunities.
We need to remember that learning languages is still important. I know that my daughter, she spent the last 3 years studying Russian, and it's changed her life to deeply understand other languages. So languages are very important. Thank you, Diego.
You are very welcome, and good for your daughter, because when you see what languages the world is speaking, you have first Chinese, second Spanish, third English, fourth Arabic, fifth Hindi, sixth Bengali, seventh Portuguese, eighth Russian, 9 Japanese. And then you have 6,000 and more languages from there. So that's true. It's very important to learn a language. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the 10-Minute Teacher Podcast. You can download the show notes and see the archive at coolcatteacher.com/podcast. Never stop learning.